All right, Sunday night edition of the wrap-up show. John and Jim with you. As you make your way in, as we always tell you, please subscribe. We've got year-round content for Padres fans. Smash the like button for us. You can follow us on Twitter. We'll get to every single super chat tonight. We really do appreciate your support of the channel. Click the $ below the chat box. If you want to become a member, get emojis and badges, you can click the join button down below. The Padres have still spent $0 in free agency. Did you see that tweet, by the way, from Jeff Passan? The Yankees have also spent nothing, but then again, they acquired Juan Soto. But the Padres, not only have they spent nothing, Jim, they've actually added payroll clearly to their major league roster, including this Matt Carpenter deal this past week where they trade away Carpenter and Ray Kerr for a double-A outfielder. So we're still looking for their first free agent spend. We'll get into what Dennis Lin wrote in The Athletic over the weekend. But Matt Carpenter, as we suspected, will not be in the Padres in 2024 as they continue to cut payroll. The question now is, what are they going to do with the additional payroll that they've added here for 2024?
Do you mean added payroll or like?
Well, excuse me, added flexibility, not added payroll.
Yeah,
no, yeah. Added.
They've shed a bunch of money.
Payroll. Yep.
They've shed payroll and they've spent $0
Yep.
and they've signed 0 free agents and they've made 3 significant moves, which is they traded Barlow,
Yep,
or De Los Santos for money flexibility, which I like that trade. I think you potentially could have an upgrade there, or it's kind of just like a wash. Barlow might be a tad better, but not for $7 million a year. The Soto trade, I mean, come on.
You can't call that anything other than it is, which is not a wash. It's a loss.
It's a loss that you've added a couple nice pitchers and flexibility, but you lost one of the best hitters in baseball and a center fielder. So now you need to get 2 outfield positions. And then the Matt Carpenter trade on Friday for some random no-name AA or AAA, I don't even know, outfielder that will do absolutely nothing for this team. But I think it's a good move because they needed to get rid of Carpenter. There's no chance in hell, and you've been saying it, like there's no chance they should have had, or they were going to have Matt Carpenter on this roster to start next season. So I think that was a good move. And they saved $5 million, I believe, because they sent 1.5 back to Atlanta. The Ray Kerr thing, I mean, okay, it's a necessary evil to make sure you got rid of Carpenter. They had to attach something to Carpenter. They couldn't just trade him away for somebody. So it was a good trade, good move. But yeah, I mean, other than that, they've done nothing. Which, look, I'm not, because I know the climate they're in and I know the situation they're in. I'm not overly upset about it yet, to the point of what are they thinking? What is the plan here? There is definitely I'm curious, what are you guys going to do here? You guys going to wait to go dumpster diving? You guys are waiting until that Black Friday sale, because that's what it seems like they're doing. And then once the offseason ends and once we get to spring training, then I think we can evaluate how this offseason was, because there's still a month and a half or maybe a little longer than that left until we get to pitchers and catchers. And it's not great right now. It's not, because they're a worse baseball team than they were last year. And they have a million holes on this roster. They have, I think, 7 open spots on their 40-man. 7.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's ridiculous. So, yeah, as of right now, it's definitely an incomplete, but it's not been a good offseason at all.
This is a classic example of you better not compare yourself to someone else. And everyone's done that, right? Oh, this dude's stronger than me. Oh, this guy's taller than me. Oh, whatever it is. If you're comparing yourself to the LA Dodgers this offseason, that's a bad thing to do. If you're comparing yourself even to the San Francisco Giants, who haven't really been able to spend the last 3 years, but finally have here with Jung-Hoo Lee, and now they're rumored to potentially be in on Blake Snell and potentially others. They've already gotten Bob Melvin, your manager, from you. Arizona has spent like crazy already this offseason.
$122 million, I think.
The only team you want to compare yourself to in the division is Colorado, because I think that would compare favorably. For San Diego, you cannot worry about what's going on around you. You need to figure out the best path forward for you. And whether that's by freeing up payroll and looking towards 2025, as stupid as that sounds, not to say you can't win in 2024, but in reading this Dennis Lin piece and talking about the free agent market and then seeing quotes from AJ Preller where he's saying, I think Jeff Sanders had it in the UT, that we're going to, I'm paraphrasing, we're going to look
right here.
for value. Yeah, we're going to look for value in January, right? Because once the top guys are off the board, what's the Jeff Sanders quote?
He said, quote, obviously you got to be able to spend on players, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, whether it's trade or free agent. When the market kind of stabilizes, guys get to January and they're looking for places to play. There might be some good buys out there.
Right. So you hear something like that from Preller. You read what Dennis Lin writes, where he writes, not only are they lowering payroll, which we know, he writes this exact sentence. According to people briefed on the club's thinking, the Padres might be inclined to open next season with a payroll that is more than a little lower than 200 million, whatever that means,
Which
more than a little lower than 200 million, a number that has been widely reported as a rough target. They were 256 last year.
Mhm.
If they're more than a little lower than 200, let's just say 180. 175. I mean, it's such a huge slash. And then maybe you kind of attack free agency in 2025 and you supplement from your system between 2024 and 2025. But I mean, there's just so many open-ended questions. And of course they're going to make moves. Of course they're not done. Of course there'll be free agent signings. Of course there'll be trades. It's just, man, when you compare yourself to the Dodgers and the Giants and the Diamondbacks, it's not a fun game to play.
And I got pushback from this for saying, like, guys, this is a wildly like known thing that their payroll was going down to 200 or lower.
Mm-hmm.
And I got pushback from some people that, may claim to be insiders saying like, oh no, it's gonna be like 220. Like,
Okay.
probably like 225. Like, no, it's not. I mean, the trend of this offseason, if you think it's going to be around 225, you're insane. It's not. But, it's crazy that we're even talking like this because just, 7 years ago, maybe, I don't know the exact timing. Like,
Right.
if you told me, hey, by the way, the Padres are going to have a $197 million payroll, I'd be like, whoa,
Right.
that's insane. We're just in a different climate now where the expectations are, where they are because of how much they've spent in the last couple of years. I've always said, if you can stabilize a payroll between 180 and $200 million, like that's plenty to win a World Series in baseball. The problem is how they've spent that money has been horrific, just absolutely horrific. There's no way around it. The amount of money they've tied up into so few players has put them at this position. And to go into next year, I think one of their main goals in this offseason is we can't even get close to the luxury tax again. Like we can't, that number of, I think it's like 237, I think it is.
Right, but that doesn't give them 237 to spend because
No,
of
that's
the
what I
way
mean.
like
The way
to your point, they have to be underneath
Yeah.
it to stay under the CBT.
How the numbers work and like I don't know exactly how the numbers work, but essentially they probably have around between 20 and $30 million to spend, like to feel comfortable with a number to also potentially add during the trade deadline next year. Because if they end up somehow spending, I don't know how they would, 35 to 40 million the rest of this offseason,
Then they'll be over.
They'll be over and they're going to lose any type of flexibility that they potentially want to have at a trade deadline next year to compete. And there's a lot of things at play here. So yeah, I'm not surprised, honestly, John, one bit. Like seeing these reports from Dennis, hearing the quotes from AJ, like I'm from everything that we've heard, I am not surprised in the slightest at all.
Well, I would say this, and I agree with what you're saying. By the way, to your point, what we're saying here about this CBT number where they need to stay under. So the Padres payroll right now, depending on where you find it, COTS or Spot Track or Fangraphs, is roughly 150. But against the luxury tax, it's 205.
Right.
They can only push up to, I believe, 237, which would give them 32 million roughly. But to your point, if you literally spent 32 this offseason, you'd have no flexibility in season with any move. Or if you added like $500,000, you'd go over the threshold.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm seeing like some people here in the chat. And again, if you're here, please subscribe here on Content for Padres fans. If you're here and you want to make sure we get your comment, if you want to support the channel, click the $ below the chat box. We'll get to every single super chat here tonight. And it's like, how did they get here? Whose fault is this? And I mean, listen, obviously it starts at the top of the organization with AJ Preller, who's been here for 10 years. I think there are two moves you look back on, and there's a million more. And we could get into the specifics of the millions more. If the Padres do not win a World Series in the next decade, the Xander Bogaerts deal is going to go down as one of the worst deals, considering the makeup of the roster that you could possibly imagine. When you had Hassan Kim and Jake Cronenworth on your roster and you spent 280 on a shortstop, unless you're winning a World Series, that you're going to look back on that and say, how on earth did we even consider doing that? That's the first part of it. I don't think second is Cronenworth or Darvish. I think second, again, unless you're winning a World Series, I think 350 to Machado is not going to look good. I mean, you have to win a World Series. The 350 additional double down on Machado, you have to win a World Series. And I mean, I think it's blunt. I think it's plain as day. I think Machado's a very good player. I think he could go down as one of the more recognizable Padres of all time. But without a World Series, to handcuff a roster with 350 to Machado and 280 to Bogarts, I'm sorry. And you see what the Dodgers and the Giants and the Diamondbacks are doing. It's like you win or else. And I listen, I credit the spending, but I don't credit the way the money was spent.
You can have two $300 million $300 million contracts on your roster. You can.
What about
you can have?
three?
But yeah, that's the problem. That's where I was getting to is like, you can have Manny at 350 and Tatis for 340. Is that a big chunk? Absolutely. Is it, not the greatest contracts in the world, especially for Manny? Like, no, it's not. I would have much rather have had, and it was never going to happen. But if Manny opted in for 5 for 150 and then Tatis at 340, I think over time you could look at it if he gets back to his MVP
definitely
ways at the plate. It looks like a steal. You're like $30 million for this guy. That's great. But you're right. And we've talked about this. That Xander contract was, if he doesn't turn out to like really put up some numbers for this team, it's going to turn into an absolute disaster because it cost you Juan Soto for another year. It just did. Right. And if you want to go to the Manny contract, it cost you a potential opportunity to make an offer to Juan Soto. All right. I don't know if they were going to re-sign him, but you lost the opportunity once you signed Manny Machado. Like that, you just didn't have an opportunity to even offer him a contract, which AJ Preller said that they never even broached a contract with him. So like the Darvish deal is, in hindsight now, obviously 2 out of the 3 years he's been here, he's been injured. It looks like crap. I still think the Musgrove deal is a good deal. I will stand by that, even though he got injured last year. I think when he pitched, he was really fucking good. Cronenworth is a disaster deal, but it doesn't like kill you financially. It's just stupid. But yeah, that Xander deal, man, along with the Manny 350, and they didn't want to do any type of Ohtani deal to defer like all of it to to help flexibility with this team, which they would never have done. Like Manny deferring money, like no way. So yeah, that's where they're at, and they put themselves in this position, and so you're going to hear a lot of names from the minor leagues potentially going to have to contribute this upcoming season, and that's always a scary thing with AJ Preller because he's never been able to develop.
And by the way, I'm fine with that theoretically. I think that whether that pans out in 2024 or not, I think is something that's probably a long time coming. And of course, all good organizations blend free agency with solid systems. To your point, the Padres really haven't had a system that has paid dividends other than in the trade market under AJ Preller. But honestly, if I'm a Padres fan, I'm not looking at Fangraph's zip projections for Machado's deal. Remember that article that came out when Machado signed? Yeah. We're like, yeah, whatever. So Machado's WAR for the last 6 years of the deal, like let me say this plain
according to Fangraphs.
According to Fangraphs, is that he's a 1 WAR player or worse for the last 6 years.
Yes.
Xander Bogart's deal for the last 6 years of his deal, he's at 2.7 WAR or worse for the last 6 years. Machado's actually at 1.4 WAR or worse. He's under 1 for the last 5 years of the deal. Bogarts is under 2 for the last 4 years of the deal. My point is this. That's why you have to win a World Series. And by the way, you're dealing with not borrowed time, but tight timing. And that's where it gets hard when you got guys in their 30s that are making a lot of money that are only going to decrease in ability to pair them with, your young core, well, this young core has to develop. So whatever that young core looks like, and by the way, a lot of people, and AJ Preller himself included, would tell you the young core is in Double A, and they might have a lot of talent in Double A. But if it begins to pay dividends in 2025 and then really, fully comes to fruition in 26 and 27, well, your core is aging. Machado and Bogarts and Darvish and Musgrove are no longer in their prime in 2026 and 2027. You could certainly argue that. So it's just a very oddly put together 26-man roster is the way I would put. I mean, it's not even 26 men right now. To your point, there's 32 people on the 40-man roster, but I just have so many questions. Now, can they get out from underneath it? I mean, probably. Are there some, eventually things are going to change. I don't think Machado will be here for 11 years if they don't win. I don't think Bogarts will be here for 11 years if they don't win. And who knows what Tatis's future looks like. But you get my point. It's an oddly constructed roster. And you pointed AJ Preller there. Not to say that you can't get into the postseason. And if you do, who the hell knows? Crazier things have happened. But it's like, man, you got to find ways to get in 2024 and 2025, because how good are you feeling about Machado and Bogarts in like 2027 and beyond? I mean, I'm not counting on those guys to win a World Series.
You're not. And that's why I have been adamant that this upcoming season is not a rebuild, because they can't afford to do that. They can't afford to I mean, they're not going to ever say it, but by having their actions, like, to me, you cannot rebuild here. And rebuilding means like getting rid of players that, like Bogarts or like Kim. Exactly. Kim, right? You get rid of Kim.
He's in his prime.
I mean, I understand if you're thinking with your head, logic, if I take away everything else, right? If you're looking from just a business standpoint, trading Hassan Kim right now, I guess probably makes sense, because, I mean, if he has another year like he did last year, dude is a $150 million player in the open market, right? I mean, that's a Dansby Swanson deal.
Oh, you're saying Kim? Yeah. He's getting. Well, he'll certainly get $100 million.
If Jung-Hoo Lee, who's never had an at bat in the big leagues, is getting 113,
then he's getting.
I think it was like Kim's getting more than that. He's one of the best second basemen in all of baseball. So I understand from a business standpoint, trading Kim to maximize value because you're not going to re-sign him. But then again, you can't afford to do that because you can't afford to not try to win this year. And Hassan Kim on this team gives you a better chance than if he wasn't. Just how I was saying, Juan Soto on the team gives you a better chance than he doesn't. But their own moves, stupidity of signing these players, caused the Juan Soto trade to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, again, can you sell me on we needed to move Soto, we needed pitching, we needed to get out from underneath from that contract. We weren't going to sign him long term. I don't like it. Okay, we can stomach it. But if you now also pair that move with Kim, I don't even know how you sell it. I'm sorry. You cannot sell it on 2024. You can start telling me about the future and your young core and who's coming up, but you can't tell me they're trying to win a World Series in 2024. You just cannot.
I just want to okay, why don't we got the super here? But some little casino in the chat's like, oh, they have $32 million to spend. Quick panicking. Okay, really you must not much. Like know. You must not know what this roster looks like right now, because even AJ Casville put out a pretty lengthy piece last week saying the Padres have a long list of needs, which includes at least another starter, preferably closer to the front end, because you're losing a Cy Young Award winner.
Sure.
Probably not, but that's probably not going to happen. But at least another starter that can give you 150 plus innings. Another high-end reliever towards the back of your bullpen. A first baseman. 2 outfielders. A DH. Bench. You're telling me $32 million? And by the way, just to say $32 million, that's like it'll probably be less than that.
Yeah.
That's the limit. So if they spend 32 on the dot, they probably don't have any flexibility going into the middle of next year at the trade deadline to make moves if they're contending. So I would suspect it'd be lower than that. If it is 32 million or higher, then I'm wrong, right? But
Well,
I'm
it could
just
be higher if they move additional play. The only caveat where it's higher than that is like you move Kim, who makes 8 this year,
yeah,
and
right.
then all of a sudden you have 40, so now you can spend 36 or whatever. But
Correct.
no, I think you're spot on. I think 32 is probably aggressive. I think it's probably in that like mid-20s range.
25,
And mid-20s, and if you want to sign any starting pitcher, we all know starting pitchers cost 10 million plus.
15 minimum. A
I
good
mean,
one.
again, they got Lugo and Walk on the cheap, and it panned out, but
Like, think
there's no
about this.
guarantee they do that again.
You get me Marcus Stroman. That's going to cost, say, just work with me here. Marcus
Mhm.
Stroman, say 16 million a year. Like just a 1 year, 16
Mhm.
million. I think that's maybe fair, maybe a
Right.
little less than he may maybe want. I'll just go on the conservative side and say 16. Reese
Sure.
Hoskins, who I see in the chat right now. I know he came off injury, but
He's here?
no.
Oh,
He's not in
okay.
the chat.
Okay.
Someone mentioned Reese Hoskins.
Yeah.
First baseman, power hitter. Let's go conservative. Let's say
15?
14.
Okay.
There's 30.
Yeah.
2 players.
And 2 players, and by the way, neither of which are some heart like guarantee. I like Reese Hoskins a lot. He's coming off a year-long injury. And
And they're good
Marcus
players, and
Stroman,
they would help you.
yeah, and Stroman's not a pup. I mean,
No.
yeah, he's going to help. I agree. I think Stroman could. I don't think they go though. I think they're going for the tier below that.
Yes.
As it sits currently, I think, and that's why you hear Preller saying, "Well, once we get to January and players like that are off the board, and guys
Yes.
are looking for jobs, maybe we can kind of exploit." He's not saying that, but I'm saying it. All right, let's get to some of these supers that are rolling in, guys. If you're here, please subscribe. Year on content for you. Please subscribe. Smash the like button for us, and thank you for the super chats. It's a great way to support the channel. We'll get to every single super chat. We can talk about anything you want to talk about. Click the $ below the chat box, like Carlos, our good buddy. Carlos, great to have you here as
What up, man?
always. He says, now that we know that Sadler wanted to win regardless of the financial implications, Soto was a lock to get an extension offer after the season. And now we know that the money isn't as much as we thought. You're saying things have changed in the absence of Sadler potentially on what their plans were with Juan Soto. That's one of those things that we'll never know about because we talked to Kevin Acey, and Kevin's like, the plan was always to lower payroll. But Kevin didn't specifically say the plan was always to move Juan Soto. So
Yeah.
that's like the caveat. Like, was the plan to move Juan Soto if Peter Seidler was still owner of the club or not? I don't think we'll ever truly know that. But according to Kevin, and who had very good relationship with Peter Seidler, it appeared as if the payroll either way was coming down.
Yeah, it does. And look, I don't want to put last season on I don't want to put all the spending on last season under this narrative of, well, Peter knew his health was deteriorating and he knew he only had 1 year left, so he just spent
Right.
a bunch of money to try to win now. Like, I don't want to put that narrative out there at all. I don't.
Yeah, I
'Cause I
mean,
don't think that's
who's really? Yeah, I'm with you. Now he happened to pass within the year, but I don't think that was necessarily the thinking a year ago.
yeah, I don't think when they signed Bogarts in December of last year and then gave Manny Machado what he wanted in spring training, that Peter Seidler was thinking to himself, like, well, this is it. I'm just gonna spend a bunch of money. Like, I don't want to put that narrative out there. And I think that's not what any thought process was during last season. I think Peter truly believed, like, I have a bunch of money. I
Mhm.
don't care. I'm gonna spend a bunch. And then the TV deal fell under, and it was like, oh shit, what now? We
Yeah, the
just lost.
TV deal is a big issue that we
We
talk about, but not everyone's talking about every day.
and it's so easy. I even can do this math. They lost 50 million from the TV deal,
60.
60. They needed to cut about 50 million from the payroll. They asked for $100 million loan, and they only got 50.
Yep.
Like,
So they're
it
at
makes
least 50
sense,
short, you're saying.
right? So you put 2 and 2 together there, and I do think that if that TV deal, which I mean, Bally Sports and the RSN or whatever network they're
Yeah.
part of, biggest piece of shit company ever, right? Like, biggest
I know, but it's
joke of a
like,
company of all time. But it was paying money.
and 28 of the teams are still getting paid as of right now. Arizona and San Diego are no longer part of this RSN
Mhm.
model as it sits right now.
And who knows if Bally's was still around? If Bally's was still around, do you think things would be different?
I think it'd be a little different. Yeah, I
Yeah,
do.
I do too.
I mean, it's interesting that the first deal that Bally's tried to get out from underneath was San Diego. Like,
I
despite the
know.
spending of Peter Sadler, despite the ratings going up in local ratings, which they were, I mean, ratings were very good in San Diego. Clearly, it was still a losing money proposition for Bally's. Um, is it Deivy? Deivy? Thank you,
We
Davy.
call it DV. Thanks, DV.
I like it. Thank you. He says Padres should have just signed Kim for 6 years, 55 at second, heading into last year, maybe. Waited for Jackson Merrill to come. Jake's contract should have needed a team option. Yeah, the Jake thing was a reach. They didn't need to do it. In retrospect, we always say this: Darvish or Snell. Cronenworth or Kim. In retrospect, this is what you're doing, but they didn't make those decisions. Could you have gotten Kim a year ago for 655? Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe you could. Maybe you could have done the Cronenworth deal, 7 for 80.
but Hassan Kim going into last year was deemed borderline a bust.
A little bit. He had that nice second half. He was a good WAR player because of his defense coming out of 2022, wasn't he?
WAR player, it was fine, yeah,
Yeah,
but offensively, just not anywhere
true.
close.
Like his career OPS plus is 100 with last year, which was a 110. So he was a below average major league hitter heading into last year.
And I guarantee you, if they sign Hassan Kim to that, like a 6
Yeah.
years, 55 million before the start of
He
last
would've
year,
sucked.
I'm not saying he would have sucked. I'm just saying that the general consensus would have been, what the F? Why are you
Mhm.
giving Kim all this money? Now, hindsight's a great thing. It would have now be viewed as like a great deal, but
Mhm.
you didn't know, and they chose wrong. As of
Yeah.
right now, they chose wrong
Yeah, I agree with that.
with Cronenworth.
Cronenworth, Darvish. Yeah, I mean, they've made some. I mean, a lot of these contracts have not panned out, obviously. Carlos, thank you again for the super. He says Kim should be traded, to be honest. We know that he had a career year and his value couldn't be higher. Cronenworth should have been traded at his peak as well. See, it's an interesting point on Kim. I mean, you're going to get real return for him. There's no question about it, especially with him not owed much in 2024. That it's hard to move Cronenworth. I mean, look at what they just did with Carpenter. They attached a player to him, and they still laid $1.5 million. So I mean, imagine trying to move Cronenworth. That's going to be really challenging.
You
Can you
don't
move
want to
Kim? Of course you can.
you don't want to become the A's here, Carlos. Where the fact that, like, oh, guys at his peak value, let's trade him.
Like, get rid of
Like,
him.
you want to keep good players. Like, that's the whole point of the game here. You don't want to have a team that, when you have players reach like a peak as far as trade value, that you have to trade them. Like, the idea should be keeping those good players on your team. And
Yeah. I mean, and you say, well,
know,
there's 1 year of control, but I'm like, well, doesn't that year matter? I mean, 1 of 4 is 25% of Kim's time in San Diego.
that's what I said about
It's only a
Soto.
4-year
One
deal,
of
you know?
one of two
1
and
of
a half
3
is
is
how much?
1 of 2.5 is 35+%.
Right. And that's what
No,
I said about
40. It's
Soto.
40%. It's 40%. They traded away 40% of what they could have had. A
Yeah.
little more. He
Right.
played 60, then 160. He had 160 coming. That's like 41% of his time in a Padres uniform was traded away.
And as of right now, because all I heard was, oh, yeah, well, it's flexibility. They can just go out and spend money now. They still could. Okay.
Mhm.
As Preller said, they're just waiting for all these prices to drop, waiting to get to MLB Black Friday. But what if they don't go out and spend that difference that they gained back from Soto? Then you're looking at it as like, what the F?
Well, that's why I keep saying, and maybe it's not the right word, but I'm like, it's not that it's a fire sale, but it's complete at that point. If it's not a fire sale, then it's a rebuild. If they go from 256 to 160,
But it's
then
still
to
not a
me,
rebuild. They have all these good, they still have
I
good
know, but you
players.
can't. But if they couldn't win a year ago with a better roster, are they going to win at a higher level against a better division with a worse
If you,
roster
look,
because they have Mike Schilt?
no,
You know,
you're going into next year with a worse roster, but you could have players have better
no
years
doubt,
that would help you.
absolutely. And they were
Tatis.
completely bad in close games and all this, right?
I mean, I've said this. You get an MVP 2021 type of year from Tatis, and he actually plays like he did it last year every single day, right? That's a massive boost. You get just an all-star type of season from Machado. Massive boost. Now, it's not just about two players. We've seen that, right?
Yeah, I was going to say,
Shohei and
can't you walk
Trout.
into like an Angels season? Two guys with a 1,000
Could.
OPS, they win 70 games.
Absolutely. You 100% could. And then it puts a lot of pressure on the others to step up. But the main problem with last year's team was the stars did not produce. So if you can have your stars produce, which is like you're getting paid to do it, that would ease a lot of worry. And then it goes on to the next step here of, all right, can the young guys and the others that we picked up off the scrap heap, can they perform? And then we'll be back to, all right,
Yeah.
those guys need to step up.
Yeah, I mean, you're asking a lot of a roster that, as it sits currently, and even if we could fast forward 3 months, will not be as good as the 2023 Padres roster. Now, again, you could argue the complexion or the makeup or everything that transpired, their record in one-run games, etc. But a roster that isn't as good against rosters that are better in your division, you're really asking for a lot potentially from that team. They have to truly overperform it to a really high degree. Thank you guys for the super chats. We're going to get to every single one of them here tonight. Click the $ below the chat box. Please subscribe. If you're here, we're going to tell you about our title sponsor, Mark Nimitz. In a moment, want to get to this from Paul. Paul, this is very generous. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
He says, folks in the chat saying you just need some Saudi money or off. Machado is past his zenith. So is Xander. Tatis will return to his mean, better than them. Pitching a suspect. Darvish is a dice roll. Need people to come from nowhere, which is basically the system, is what you're saying, Paul. Or really, really precision, good free agent signings from AJ Preller. But I mean, no, this isn't about. I mean, like you said, they're still going to have that, 180 to $200 million payroll. It'll be top half in the sport. They're not.
Mhm.
It's not leaving the side of their family in any.
They're not
you
going
know,
down to like 70 million payroll.
And by the way, I just looked it up. In 2017, according to Cots, it was 70 million. And
Right.
then it was
So
95 in 2018.
Mhm.
And then it was 97 in 2019. Then you had the COVID. Then it was 174 under Seidler. Then it was 211. And then it was 250.
Now, was that 174 the 2020 year or the 2021 year?
2021. Was that Darvish, Musgrove, Snell?
Darvish, Musgrove,
Yeah.
Snell, yes.
So, it's gone up exponentially, and clearly they can't keep up with it, and the TV deal is a part of it. Plus, they haven't performed. But no, I mean, you're not going to get a different ownership group, and they're never going to be the New York Yankees. They're not going to spend $300 million.
No.
They did it for a year or two. It didn't fully pan out. Now they got to be a top half payroll, hopefully moving forward, and find ways to win with their general manager and with development and making the right moves. But I mean, what he's saying is somewhat on. I mean, yeah. I mean, you got Machado and Bogarts. Tatis has to be better. Pitching, who the hell knows? And Darvish is old. He's got to bounce back himself in 2024.
Yep, he's got to have a healthy year. He's got to have a 2022 type of season when he was an all-star, one of the frontline starters. I mean, basically what you're asking for is all the players that I mentioned, Musgrove, Darvish, Manny, Xander, Tatis, Kim. You need to have like really good seasons from all of those guys. Pretty much. You need to have like an all-star season from at least Musgrove or Darvish, one of those guys. And then the other guy needs to be, pretty good as well. You need to have an all-star season from 2 of the 3 of Tatis, Xander, and Manny, I feel like. And then the other guy needs to still be very good as well. And then you need to have pretty much the exact same season next year from Ha-Seong Kim, maybe a little better. And then we're like, okay, now we're talking here.
You also need a Manny Machado that is capable of providing more both on field and off field. Like you somehow have to work through whatever dynamic was at play last year. And you might say to yourself, you know what, worse roster, better unit, as opposed to better roster, but worse cohesion. Cohesion matters. Diamondbacks roster to start the year was not as good as San Diego's.
Culture matters.
And they had a better year. And they went through a really bad stretch in August where they were like, I mean, I'm making it up, a 2-20 over a 22-game stretch. Then they got through San Diego where they won like 5 of 6, and it completely changed their season. You got to be able to deal with adversity. If the Padres are 60-50 and then all of a sudden 65-65, what do they do from there? If they, how do you fight through a 5-15 where historically you don't feel great about the Padres in that spot, and other teams have been able to overcome that, in recent history. All right, let me tell you about our title sponsor here, Mark Nimitz, on the Wrap Up Show. We can't do this day in and day out, year round, without the support of Mark Nimitz, just like we can't do it without your support if you're here live or on replay. He is a great insurance agent. You can take it from us, whether it's auto, home, renters, life, earthquake insurance, whatever you need. I've got homeowners, earthquake, and life insurance through Mark. And just by switching your policy, he can save you $750 or more. And it's about more than saving money. He will save you money, but he's going to save you time. He's a great insurance agent with great service and communication. You can take it from me firsthand because I had a claim in here in 2022, and he saved us thousands of dollars and dozens of hours of time. He's a lifelong San Diego Padres fan. He's a native San Diegan. He does business in our community. You can click the link in the description down below. You can get free quotes online or call Mark. He will talk to you about the Padres offseason. He's not thrilled. He will talk to you about saving money on your insurance as well. So whatever it is, auto, home, renters, life, earthquake insurance, if you support this channel, please support our title sponsor, a local business. Click the link in the description down below. That is Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance.
Yeah, all his information is above my head. mnimitz@farmersagent.com. When you reach out to our buddy Mark, tell him it's going to be okay. And let him know that John and Jim from the Wrap Up Show sent you.
All right, let's get back to some of these supers that are rolling in, like this one from Ruben. Thank you, Ruben. He says, do we know if we are even looking for more TV deal? I mean, I had read that MLB, while they were concerned about the short-term losses from clubs, they weren't concerned about it long-term, and there was a vision for how to rectify some of these monies lost. By the way, I don't think they're going from $60 million to nothing. There's the MLB.TV money. They could be arranging TV deals right now locally that will garner them some money, but they're going from 60 to way down. You know, is it 60 to 16? Yeah, I mean, I think that's all reasonable. Yeah, I mean, last year, MLB compensated up to 80%. They went from 60 to 48, a net negative 12. MLB's not doing that now. So if they go from 60 to 30, that's another loss of 18. Now, in long term, can they make it up? Maybe, but in the short term, it's a huge question mark, and it's impacting their ability to spend. Now, it's not impacting Arizona's ability to spend, but they don't have the same payroll right now as San Diego. But Arizona does not have that TV deal either, as we know it. But I don't know what Arizona was getting, and I don't know what their TV prospects look like moving forward, but they are coming off a World Series as well.
My guess is next year you're going to get a TV package similar to what it was last year once Bally's went bankrupt.
Right, which is what?
But at a much higher cost. Like
maybe.
Like instead of how much was
20,
it for the rest of
20 a month? It was 80 for 4 months. Or they gave you $10 off. I think you could have done $70 for 4 months or 20 a month.
I would not be surprised if you see
30,
like $150 for the season.
No, I think yeah. No, I think you're right, because that's about 20-25 a month for 6 months.
Maybe more.
180.
Maybe like a 180 or like a one.
Yeah,
I don't know, $69.99.
No, I agree.
To get the package on MLB.
Still though, like do the math on that. Like if I'm just gonna quickly do that. Like $170. Like you need a lot of subscribers.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? To get any real number. Like, okay, let me just use 60 mil is how many zeros? Here we go. Let me just divide it by $150. I mean, you need 400,000 people paying 150. Like to put that in perspective, like the TV households in the market is only like 1 million households. And you could argue the semantics if you carry it out into Riverside and Palm Springs and Orange, of course. And there's Padres fans in Tuscaloosa. We get the point, but not tens of thousands.
And you're running into,
400,000 is crazy.
And you're running into literally one of the worst off seasons that you can remember. Go buy our product.
I want to say, and I could be dead wrong with this, because I remember there's an article in the Sports Business Journal. They were pleased with the number of like subscriptions they sold in the middle of the season when this happened. Padres were a relevant team.
They saw no boost
in ratings. You're right, but I'm saying like the people like me, that once the Padres left Bally's, I'm like, perfect. I'm going to get rid of whatever DirecTV stream, and I'll spend the $80 for the year. And I forget what it was. It was not a big number. It was like, I'm completely making it up, like maybe 10,000 people purchased that package. But let me do the math on that real quick. 10,000 times $80 is 800,000. They were getting 60 million.
That's not.
So that's 1.33% of 60 million.
You might be looking at like $200.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's just the math again in the short term. I'm not saying you're all getting it. By the way, Jim, maybe they don't get it from MLB.TV. Maybe they go, I'm making this up, to Fox 5 and say, hey, it's 6.6 million to air games, just like they do with radio. Like, hey,
Yeah.
it's 6 million, or it's and here's what you get, and now go sell it. So my guess is something like that could be coming, but again, you're not getting to 60 million is the point.
Uh, yeah. I don't see any like permanent resolution here this offseason.
Not permanent.
Honestly, it's going to be a makeshift of things, and like I said, I would not be surprised if it's back on like Channel 4, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Along with the MLB package at a significantly higher rate, where people are going to bitch about it and complain, but it's like, get over it, pay the money, just stop.
Well, will they do? No, but I mean, to your point, like, yeah, there's 10,000 people that'll do it, but 10,000 times $100 or $200 gets you nowhere near where you need to get to.
Yeah.
Alan, thank you for the very generous super chat. We do appreciate that,
Thank
guys.
you,
If you're here,
Alan.
subscribe.
Thanks,
If you're
buddy.
here, thank you for the super chats. Click the $ below the chat box, like Alan. If you want to become a member, click join. You get emojis and badges. He says, happy holidays, fellas. Thank you, Alan. Happy holidays to you
Thanks,
as
man.
well. Says, which rookies will be on the 2024 Padres opening day roster? I will say
A
this.
lot.
The Jacob Marcy guy that Preller talked about when he traded Soto, he said he'll get a shot in spring training. And the more the time passes, the more I believe him.
You saw the thing with Ben, right?
I did not.
I'll give Fadden credit, because I saw he talked to Jim Callis.
Okay.
And Jim Callis said that basically, like, paraphrasing here, to sum it up, the Padres would be crazy to give Jacob Marcy significant time in the outfield next year at the major league level.
Okay. That's fair. And by the way, these other names that you've heard, the Snellings and the Iriartes and whomever else, they should be not a while off. They might see time in 2024, but they shouldn't start the year on the major league roster is the point. And by the way, they can, and maybe someone individually performs doing that, but you're playing the Dodgers and you're playing the team that was in the World Series in Arizona. I'm just saying you're going to take your lumps is my point. If you're playing a lot of rookies with a lot of regularity. Now, I think you pick your spots. I think you will need a rookie or two. And certainly by the end of 2024, you'll need more than a rookie or two. I'm just not overly confident in starting the year with, Jackson Merrill on the opening day roster when he still needs more seasoning, is my point.
I'm just worried that these guys are going to be pushed before they're ready.
They may be, yeah.
Because they don't have anybody else. And that to me is like a Preller, like his MO is he pushes guys before they're actually ready to the big league level. Like, there's talk of Ethan Salas potentially seeing time in the big leagues in 2024. I'm like, are you freaking insane?
Right. He's like 17.
Like, he's not even of drinking age yet.
He's drinking. He's not even of lotto ticket buying age.
Right. He's not even a legal adult yet. And you're talking about giving him time at the big league level? I mean, are we insane here? What are we doing?
Kind of.
So,
and my theory on that is like, why would you even start his clock for no reason? Then he'll be a free agent.
What they did with Tatis,
$700 million.
But I don't know exactly who, Allen, would be on the opening day roster. But my over under right now for actual rookies on the opening day roster, I'm gonna go over under 3.5. And I will take.
It's funny. I was gonna say 3. So it's very.
I would take probably 3.
Yeah, I think it'll be. I mean, honestly, I might take the over. I'm going to say 4, to be honest. Out of 26, it's going to be 4. Or if not more.
There's a half a player out there somewhere like,
yeah, exactly. Richard, appreciate your super, appreciate your viewership. And
Thanks,
he always lets us know he's a Dodger fan.
Yeah.
Dodger fan here. The only path for 2024 is the big 3. Need to have a magical year. Get very creative with the flexibility you do have. Unfortunately, your major league ready Telnet is currently in Washington. Okay, you're saying the
talent.
Okay,
Major league ready talent.
Telnet. Yeah, and you could argue the value that talent has right now, even for the Nationals. But I think there's some things to like Abrams and Gore and potentially more than that long term. But yeah, I mean, you traded for Juan Soto and he's gone a year and a half later, and you gave up a lot to make that trade. Yeah, you've got pitching back from the Yankees. By the way, some of those rookies are probably guys you got back in that trade. Is that right? No, those guys made major league debuts last year. The other guys, other than King, had already pitched in the big leagues. But they still might technically be rookies, one or two of those guys.
Thorpe.
Well, Thorpe clearly hasn't even appeared
he's never
yet.
pitched in the big leagues.
And he's not going to start 2024.
The two other relievers they got.
They had pitched in the big leagues.
They pitched in the big leagues last year.
Yeah. And Higashioka has been in the big leagues. So, but yeah, I mean, the point's valuable, or the point's valid. They're going to have to get a lot of contributions.
And you're running into a situation, too, that people aren't really talking about because they're just, I don't know why. I mean, how much faith is there that Luis Campusano is going to be played almost every day for the entire year? I mean, not every day, but like 120 games.
I don't think it'll be that. I think it'll be like 90, 70, 160. I think he's a good player. I just think he has to stay healthy. I think
that's
good
my
enough
thing to play. I don't know if he's going to stay healthy. And Higashioka, I said it right. Higashioka is nice defensively, but I mean, if you're looking for like a consistent offensive bat, you might be seeing lineups where you're like, ugh, you know?
Yeah, it's true. That's catching. I mean, most secondary catchers can't hit.
Yeah, I get it.
But no, your point's valid. I mean, Campusano still has something to prove. Hopefully he comes into his own. Like, he has shown flashes of being a really good hitting catcher and more than serviceable as a big leaguer, but he's got to prove it as a full-timer in 2024.
Carlos,
thanks again. What's that?
Never would happen.
What'd he say?
He goes, would you guys bring Will Myers back for $5 million? He's a vibe. Profar for $2 million. And Snell for $22 million. That's $30 million. Let's get it.
Well, Snell's never 22.
This is not fancy baseball.
Sorry. No, Snell, even if Snell gets less than we thought he would, the AAV is still going to be high, even if it's just a couple of years. Carlos says, yes, but I honestly feel Kim will regress. He had a career year. It gives me Chase Headley in 2012 vibes. He's our best trade piece to get good return. We don't have money to go the free agent route to get quality. Yeah, I don't know about that either, Carlos, because he's right in the middle of the prime of his career. And even if his bat isn't as good as it was last year, not that it was spectacular. I mean, his glove is so good and his defensive versatility is so valuable that, I mean, certainly it's $7 million or whatever he's making next year. It's a complete bargain. And I would want his contributions over whatever I can get via trade. I would think.
It's not like Hassan Kim had like a 30 home run, 115 RBI season. I mean, he had a nice offensive year.
He did.
Which is very, what's the word? Replicated. You can replicate it. Very easily replicated. Replicatable. It's very
260, 351 on base, 398 slug, 749 OPS.
Yeah, that's very easy to replicate. It's not crazy numbers. 17 home runs, very good. I think he can even be better than that, honestly. I think his average, if you're looking at a guy that can hit around 280, between 280 and 300, I think, that could be good. And I know people just love to dismiss batting average all the time, but I still think it matters a little bit.
It has value, especially for a guy that's not going to hit 40 home runs. I mean, he's got to get on base.
You don't want guys in your lineup all hitting 215 with, it's like
we've seen that.
Yeah. So I think his season last year is definitely he definitely can replicate it and probably do better. So that's why I don't think he's Chase. He doesn't give me Chase Headley vibes.
Yeah, JD Gouch is saying maybe the word you're looking for is repeatable or duplicate. Good point.
Duplicate? Yeah, there you go.
SJL Stevens, thank you for your membership. Thanks,
buddy.
For the very generous super. And all to say, new shirt culture matters.
Culture matters, yeah.
I like it. If you have more ideas, put it in the chat. We need some more shirts for 2024. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
SJL Stevens, thank you, man. Really do appreciate your support of the channel and your membership. Means a lot. Steve with the super to say 4th or 5th place. I mean, I think heading into the year, you'll get a lot of prognosticators and metrics and analytics that will tell you the Padres will be the 4th best team in the NL West. Now, rosters are incomplete. LA included, San Francisco included, Arizona included. So they're incomplete. Things could change. But I would guess that most are going to pick the Padres as the At best, the third best team in the league or in the division, and at worst, the fourth best team in the division would be my guess.
Yeah, I mean, still a long ways to go in the offseason, right? But the Dodgers aren't done. They're not done. Giants aren't done.
Right. No.
I'd probably say the Diamondbacks are pretty close to done, but I mean, they got better this offseason. Rockies, who cares? So yeah, I mean, you're going into next season a worse roster than you had last year for sure. In a division that a lot of teams got better in.
It's not a great combination.
No.
You don't play teams in your division 20 times, but you do play them 13 times. And 13 times 3 other good teams is, well, 39 games, which is 1/4 of all games you play. So it matters. And then this from JD's 30 says 2024 payroll target is 170. Is that good? If that is the payroll target, that's troublesome. If that is the payroll target, because they're already in the 150s. So that would give you under 20.
Yeah.
So no, that's not really great, to be honest. No. You got 3 or 4 players making over half of that.
Yeah. And someone in the chat said, Jim, just because it's a maybe worse roster on paper doesn't mean that it won't be a worse year.
That's correct.
I know that.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah. I mean, they still could be good next year. They still could win more than 82 games. 82 games is not like this crazy bar to get over.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's really not. But you're going to need a lot of things to go your way to get to that 85, 84, 85, 86 win mark.
Potentially, yeah.
And again,
it's not the craziest win total. It's
not
crazy. I mean, in those, I just mentioned like these 39 games against the Giants, Diamondbacks, and Dodgers. I mean, you don't even have to be that good in them. It's for, I'm just making it up. If you're, 17 and 22, well, then you have 120 other games to be better than that. I mean, as long as you don't bury yourself against your division, it's not like it's impossible to get to the postseason. It's just, it just feels uphill because we all experienced what last year was, which was a good roster that disappointed. Does that mean a quote unquote, I don't want to use the term bad roster, but worse roster can exceed expectations? Of course, it's sports. Of course that can happen. It's just coming off of last year, you're not overly confident in it, I think is the point.
Every team in baseball, except if you're the A's, every team in baseball is 60 and 60. It's what you do in the other 40 games that matter.
Yeah.
So
there's a couple that are screwed. I mean, Colorado's screwed in this division.
But they can still win 60 games.
Oh, yeah, no, 160 games. But I mean, can they win 80?
No.
Probably not. They said that was like their target. We think we can win 80 games. I mean, great. Congratulations. That's incredible. Okay, we're going to get back to the chat in a moment. Thank you guys for hanging out. Please subscribe if you're here. Thank you for the super chats. Click the $ below the chat box. We'll get to every single one. Do want to thank our friends over at Aura for their support of this channel. This is a great, great company. Their co-founder, Will, is a huge supporter of the channel. He is a lifelong Padres fan, a native San Diego, and they have offices right here in Liberty Station in San Diego. This is a plant-based nutrition company, plant-based nutritional supplement company. Single thing they sell is plant-based. And if you're looking to get healthier in 2024, this is an amazing holiday gift. This is a great way to kick off the new year with our friends over at Aura. I've been taking their probiotic for like 2 years at this point. It's a great product. I take it every single day for digestion, heart health, mental health, and more. They have pre-workout supplements. They have proteins for after workouts. They have omega-3 oils. If you take a fish oil, you can take their omega-3 oil, which is plant-based. They have sleep pills and immunity pills that are plant-based. I mean, incredible stuff. And much, much more. So you can check them out by clicking the link in the description down below or by going to ora.organic. But again, local company that supports our work here on the Wrap-Up Show. If you want to get healthier with their plant-based supplements, check them out, ora.organic, or click that link in the description down below.
Yep, holidays. We're about a week away from Christmas. You still could get, that Christmas present if you have somebody in your life that loves to work out or just loves to be healthy, likes, wellness and supplements, and Aura is the place to go for you. They have pre-workouts. They have protein powder for post-workouts, supplements that you can take on a daily to live a healthier lifestyle. So go there right now, www.ora.organic. Pick some stuff up for the holidays, and you'll thank us later.
All right, let's get back to some of these supers here that are rolling in. Guys, we appreciate you hanging out. Again, subscribe if you're here, smash the like button, and thank you for the supers. Click the $ below the chat box like Richard did. And Richard, thank you again. He said, Jim, on tonight's
Richard.
Dodger Heads channel, we took a break from baseball and talked about ballpark food. Results, Dodger dogs overrated. Petco has the best food options. All right, there's a win. There's an off-season win for the Padres. Better food than Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, what the fuck is Ohtani thinking going there to all the shitty food they have?
It's a great point.
Yeah, Dodger dogs are the most overrated ballpark food, and maybe just
food,
just like no, not just food, but stadium or game day food. Most overrated game day food ever in any sport.
Wow,
honestly, the Dodger dog is absolute trash. Just pathetic hot dog. It's the worst. It's disgusting. It's not good. It's tasteless. It has a weird color to it. It's not a good.
And how much does it cost next year? Probably $39.
Yeah. Well, no, they're deferring all this money, so they probably are still going to only charge like $13 for it.
Yeah, but 13. But then do I owe 13 more in 2029 or something?
Dude, they're probably every concession stand at Dodger Stadium. They're like, that will be $29.99, and you have to defer $700 to 2035 for Shohei Ohtani.
By the way, real quick, I just Googled how much is a Dodger dog, and I got something at like statista.com. Price for a hot dog in Major League Baseball in 2023 by team. Most expensive hot dog in the major leagues last year, Petco Park, $7.75. Dodger Stadium Dodger dog is actually like 7th at $6.50. Really? And the cheapest hot dog in the big leagues, Arizona, is $2.99. Yankee Stadium is $3.
Dude, California, man. What the
Yankee Stadium's $3 for a hot dog?
Well, yeah, because they understand that, like, dude, hot dog is
it's a hot dog. You got to start with something at a base. You can charge 20 for beer, but if you keep that hot dog reasonable, people buy beer.
Yeah, it's not.
San Diego's charging $7.75 for a hot dog.
Oh my god, we're screwed.
I mean, I get it. It was a $256 million payroll, but geez.
Like, remember when? But to Richard's also point of talking about Petco as the best food. Remember when we were in the box last year and all the food that came in was like sushi boat and like
that was amazing
salad and
it was free for us.
Yeah, sloppy joes and like these like amazing chicken fingers and like sliders.
Dude, it was incredible.
Like my mouth's watering just thinking about it.
And stuff. Yeah, it was like
jalapeno poppers, like with like a corn medley.
Spectacular.
Like what? And then like a bunch of different desserts and then a
but for the
maker.
True, but for like the real people,
for everybody else, peasants.
Like, man, I didn't realize that a hot dog at Petco is $7.75. Hopefully, it's good for $7.75.
And they're also raising ticket prices next year too, so it's not going to be a cheap one to get into that place.
Right?
Like, think about that. They've raised not only ticket prices, but they've raised season tickets. Food items are not getting cheaper.
No, they're not going down. What's your over/under on announced attendance
next year?
As in, it was 3.2, just based on like the million, then
2.8. 2.8.
I agree with you. I think it's right in that neighborhood, which is still very good. It could be lower than that. I find it hard to believe they're going to draw 3 million.
It depends on how they do. If they're in it, then you could see a push beyond 2.8. I feel like. But if
but you got to get that from day one to get the you know what I mean? You need those Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Yeah, and they're going to have to do a really good job with their promotion schedule, which they did last year. I mean, they did a fantastic job.
They did. That'll be good. They've been good.
I don't have any worry about that. But yeah, if this team ends up being average to suck next year, I mean, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a drastic difference.
They had the push. They had the marketing push. They were a vehicle. They had Juan Soto. People were excited before the year. This year, people aren't as excited, obviously. That's putting it lightly.
People are upset. You know,
last year. Now, I think they've renewed a lot of people. I don't know what percent, but I'm sure they've renewed a good amount. But it's a little bit tenuous, is what I would say at this point. You got to get off to a good start.
Yeah, if you don't have a good if you do not have a good year next year,
then you're in trouble for 2025.
Then, yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to cut more payroll potentially. and raise season tickets prices again with no
I don't know if
TV
you can
deal
do that.
still.
No, that's going to be hard to do. If they're not good this year, it's going to be hard to raise ticket prices for 2025. They got to be
Yeah.
good
Okay. Well,
to
they got
do
to
that.
find some way to make money.
True. Hot dogs.
Yeah.
Paul,
$12.
thank you. He says new shirt better than the Rockies.
I kind of like that
Lord,
one. Except if we made a shirt that said better than the Rockies and the
we'd be
Rockies are
sued.
better than the Padres, then it's a problem.
Then we'd be say better than no one. Better than the A's.
And they have like a trademark to it, so we can't put Rockies on a t-shirt.
Better than Colorado. Can say that.
There you go.
Where you at Productions? Thank you. He says, is the great Jim Runsell. Jim
Runsell.
Runsell. I like that. As the great Jim Russell once said, you just traded Juan Soto, LOL. How do we fill in the gaps? Who can we sign or trade to help this team win? Is the Bells or the Bruns the answer? Thoughts? I think my
Maybe
vision's wrong. What does that say?
Bellies, like Bellinger and Corbin Burns.
Oh, okay. Burns spells it differently than Bruns. They're not signing Bellinger.
No.
And could you trade for Burns? I guess, but they're not signing Bellinger.
You could trade for Burns, but it's going to cost you a good prospect. And, he has 1 year left to control. And if he has a great year for you, probably not going to re-sign him.
Even if he doesn't have a great year, because the cost of starting pitching is high.
Correct. But yeah, they just I saw something on Twitter just now, and it was a video. I retweeted it. Someone said Juan Soto put this on his Instagram today.
Okay.
There's a video of him in a Padres uniform. Looks like he might be either maybe it's at the Reds ballpark. Yeah, I think that's in Cincinnati. Hitting a home run, and the second he hits the home run, his jersey turns to a Yankees jersey. I was like, that sucks, dude. That really does suck. The more I think about it, I get all the logistics behind it, and I understand it. Don't come at me for like, they had to do it, Jim. They had to do it. But the fact, like you just said, where are you at Productions? Like, they traded Juan Soto.
Oh, you think it sucks now? It's going to get way worse in the season.
Oh, God. He's going to tear it up in New York, dude.
Exactly.
On a contract year.
I know, in a bandbox. Steve, thank you. He says, so will the fans buy season tickets? I mean, I think a lot of this is in renewal. I mean, this has been going on since July, August of last year. I'm sure the renewal rate is good. There's no way it's bad. At the very least, it's good. Clearly, it's not 100%. But I mean, even if they're renewing 80%, they have huge season ticket base. Huge. So, I mean, if you're renewing at 80%, they're off to a good spot. Or a good start, and now they got to sell single game tickets, and they need to be better. Again, a year ago, I thought they were a marketing machine, right? Remember FanFest? It was the Beatles coming to America. That's not going to be the case again this year. Nobody's going to be gobbling that up. We're going to win a World Series. How many games is it going to take for us to win the World Series? Nobody's going to be buying that in 2024. So I just think it's going to be a more pragmatic fan base, and the expectations are going to change, to be honest, to some extent. And they got to play better. And they got to play better from day one than they did a year ago. Last year was all built in. They sold 1 million season tickets. Dude, people were there when they were terrible. It was like July. They were terrible. They're playing the Diamondbacks. It was like Ha-Seong Kim hat giveaway. And there's 40,000 people there. I just don't know if that's going to happen again in 2024 unless they're good.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that's the problem. Okay, while we have a moment here, I do want to remind our viewers about our longtime partner here on the Wrap-Up Show for the better part of the last year, Underdog Fantasy and UnderdogFantasy.com. And let me pull it up on screen. If you click that QR code, or if you scan that QR code that's on the screen right now, you can go to Underdog Fantasy or the Underdog Fantasy app. And if you use promo code PODSWRAP, that's PADSWRAP, you're going to get a 100% deposit match up to $100. So you don't have to deposit $100, by the way. $10 deposit becomes $20, $20 becomes $40, and so on and so forth, all the way up to $100. It's the best and easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's so simple and easy, whatever sport you're playing. NFL going on right now, NBA, of course, baseball. Come next spring, you can draft yourself, or you can let Underdog draft for you with an auto draft, and then they take care of everything. There are no waivers. There are no trades. They set your lineup each and every day. So you can do the dailies, you can do the weeklies, you can do the season long. They take care of everything. They make it super simple. And then with the pick'ems, it's simple, higher or lower contesting. Brock Purdy, higher or lower than 255.5 passing yards. Debo, higher or lower than 88.5 receiving yards. Christian McCaffrey, higher or lower than 445 yards rushing. Okay, simple as that. Now, next week in Baltimore, here are the higher lowers for San Francisco. Brock Purdy, higher or lower than a half passing yard. Debo, higher or lower than a half receiving yard. Christian McCaffrey, higher or lower than a half rushing yard.
Well, according to you,
game.
According to you, the Ravens are going to kill these guys, literally murder them.
I watched the Ravens tonight. Maybe Jacksonville's terrible. The Ravens are good, man. Now San Francisco is really good. This is like the game. This is like the greatest game in the history of the National Football League. San Francisco, Baltimore. This is the Super Bowl on Christmas night in Baltimore. Winner wins the Super Bowl.
It's literally going to ruin my Christmas.
It should. Is it? What time is that on Christmas?
East Coast time. It'll be 8:15.
Oh, you're gonna be sleeping by the third quarter. It's like if they're down 3-2, you're gonna go to sleep.
3-2.
3-2, in the second quarter, you're going to sleep.
Okay.
Should be a good game. Anyway, if you want to play those simple fantasy sports, if you want to double your deposit, go to underdogfantasy.com, use promo code PODSWRAP, PADSWRAP, or scan that QR code on the screen right now. But again, use promo code PODSWRAP, PADSWRAP, and double your first deposit up to $100.
Mm-hmm.
So we're back tomorrow on San Diego Sports 760 and YouTube. John and Jim, 3 to 6 Pacific, talking about this. What comes next? Do we really have to wait till January for the Padres to spend $1 in free agency? Probably, right? Christmas is a week away.
Dude, they're waiting. I'm telling you. They're waiting for all the after Christmas sales.
I know.
Everything marked down by half off.
I can't even. I don't even know where to turn with the Padres in free agency. I really don't. I just know not to get overly excited.
I'm so interested because there's so much at play here of how important this is for AJ Preller's future.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe he can because he's Teflon in that building for some reason. Maybe, I don't know, but I don't think you can afford to go into this regular season of we're going to make a push with our young guys. I just don't. Now, I don't trust it. They're nice on paper. They have good rankings. Until I actually see these guys perform at the big league level, I have very little faith that they're gonna do that and accomplish that. I need to see it. There's been too many times in Preller's tenure where he's pushed guys way too fast through the system up to the big league level, and they weren't ready. So until I see it happen on paper, it might look nice. The third ranked prospect in the Padres organization, Jackson Merrill's up. I have to see it first. I just have to.
Yeah, I agree with you. I hope they get off to a good start. Honestly, that's to me crucial. The difference to me, the difference between 16 and 13 and 13 and 16 feels like a lot to me. If you're constantly they're already 3 games under. And now they're 2 under, but then they lose again. They're 3. The difference between 3 under and 3 over in that first month to me feels important.
I'm already thinking to myself, you got to just get a split in Korea versus the Dodgers somehow.
I'm not thinking that, but
if they don't get a split versus the Dodgers in Korea, this thing's going downhill.
Year. I mean, we knew it was bad to the Rockies at home. That was not a good start. But we were right.
But didn't it feel like last year there was a sentiment of they'll be fine? We were.
I was all over them from day one. This team, there's something wrong.
That weekend, we're dude, what the F, man?
Well, no. After the Atlanta series where they won 3 or 4 in Atlanta, and things looked good for a moment, and then they took game 1 of a Dodgers series to get to 2 or 3 over at one point. It was I'm making up 17-14. And you're oh, this is the greatest team in baseball history, and the Dodgers are done, and Padres are clearly better than them. And from there on, the Padres are terrible. I mean, seriously. I think they were under 500 from that point on, even with their finish. So first month is critical, but you look at, the Giants series at home and opening with the Dodgers. It's just important. They got to play well early. Hopefully they do that. And then hopefully they build confidence as the season goes on. But yeah, I'm curious about what happens from here on out. We'll see what they do in free agency with trades. And we are about 90 days out from that Korea series. It is March 20th, and now is December 17th. We're about 90 days out from the Korea series. As crazy as that sounds.
I just want to say I hope that Mike Schultz, travel agent, or all of his flights were insured.
God,
because
where was he going again? It was hilarious.
He was going to see. First off, he said he was going to see Juan Soto. Then Soto got traded.
Yeah, bad idea.
And then he was mentioning that he was going to see Matt Carpenter at the start of the year. Got traded. And he's like, "Yeah, then I'll go see Grisham." And then Grisham got traded.
It's like the Madden curse. It's like anyone he's going to see is gone.
I know. And he mentioned Cronenworth. He saw Cronenworth in Chicago. Maybe like this past week.
He's still here.
Somehow.
Please don't visit me, Mike.
Yeah,
Please,
don't come to my house.
Don't come to my house. All right, guys. Appreciate you hanging out. If you're here, please subscribe. Smash the like button for us. Follow us on Twitter. If you're here on replay, we really do appreciate the super thanks. Those have been rolling in here throughout the course of the offseason. If you want to support the channel, you can do so on replay with the super thanks button. Please support our partners, Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance. If you got a renewal coming up, before you just renew, get in contact with Mark. He's going to save you money on your insurance and time. So click that link in the description down below. Mark's our title sponsor. We have our friend Will at Aura. If you're looking to get healthier, check him out. Click the link in the description down below or go to ora.organic. And again, at underdogfantasy.com or on the Underdog Fantasy app, use promo code PODSWRAP, PADSWRAP, and get a 100% deposit match up to $100. YouTube, thank you. Everyone here, thank you. Happy holidays. I can say that now, right, Jim? We're a week out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're good.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy 2024. Opening day is here. What a 2024 it was. We'll see you in 2025. Thanks, guys. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow. John and Jim.
What? John and Jim.
I don't know.